Rafaela Rodriguez. I am an English major specializing in teaching grades 7 through 12. Today I will discuss the sociocultural perspective in teaching, why it is important, and how it relates to an excerpt from a novel by Jose Skinner. While teaching, we must acknowledge how a student's learning can be affected by their race or ethnicity, economic disparity, culture, and geographic location. In English Education by Tanya B. Perry, she mentions that students, especially minorities and those living in urban poverty, experience opportunity gaps rather than academic performance gaps. To close these gaps, as an English teacher, it is important to show my students that I believe in them. I too have to work with other educators to bring awareness on how students' learning is affected by uncontrollable factors such as economic or social influences. It is crucial that I use resources that meet the needs of my students, even if it means deciding lessons specifically to work with them. As this quote by Tonya B. Perry expresses, English studies tend to ignore the sociocultural factors that affect students. On the contrary, it prioritizes those students that have access to better education and can easily succeed in speaking, reading, and writing in English. To move past this, as a teacher, I have to recognize that school is not separate from a student's personal life. There are many factors that could affect a student's learning, such as working part-time or taking care of siblings. It is important to know who my students are, what their life at home is like, and their interests. I have to show my students that I am there for them. One way to do this is to avoid presenting materials that can be hurtful, and instead include literature that represents their identities and struggles. A perfect example will be Every Head's a World, an excerpt from Jose Skinner's Flight. It tells the story of a Hispanic boy who lost his mother and is put in dangerous situations by his father. It speaks of Hispanic culture and emphasizes how everyone has a mind of their own. It reveals the inner thoughts of the boy and how he is coping with the external factors in his life. The excerpt is eye-opening as it expresses that a student's life can be filled with tragedies and dangers. It also represents a situation that Hispanic students can be facing, such as drug smuggling and/or cult father figures. Overall, it shows that sometimes students have little to no control over what affects them greatly. Every Head's a World, as mentioned briefly, does a great job of representing Hispanic students. It highlights the importance that Spanish played in the life of the boy's mother and how our culture impacts him now. It also expresses how skin color can affect how one is perceived. From a teaching perspective, this excerpt highlights how students may feel helpless and alone at home. They might be involved in unlawful acts or simply feel as if they are voiced and powerless. As a teacher, it is my job to ensure that none of my students feel as if they have no control over their life. Overall, this excerpt represents students who may be struggling to overcome a loved one's death or may be going through the wrong path in life. It also represents Hispanic culture and uses some of its vocabulary. Most importantly, it teaches us to understand the struggles of one another and how they can be invisible to the naked eye.